Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to episode 51 of the FReality Podcast. This is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show that is live streamed every Saturday on our YouTube channel, Twitch, and Facebook. You can tune into the show live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in Central US. If you missed the live stream, don't worry, you can catch up with the whole show as I re-upload it every Sunday to our own YouTube channel. Or you can check out the audio version, which is available on Google Play Music, iTunes, and on SoundCloud. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback during the show, please put them in the chat, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. Now, let me introduce you to the team. Unfortunately, this week, Nathy cannot make it because he's actually going to be ringside at the Logan Paul versus KSI boxing match so here in the UK. But I wonder who he's going to be backing. I'm not quite sure if he's Team KSI, Team Logan Paul. I'm not quite sure.
I actually suggested to him, like, can we do like the podcast there? It'd be kind of funny to see Nathy there in the ring, holding his phone, trying to pay attention to the match. And then our viewers don't have to pay so much money to see them actually play.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Good idea. Yeah. If you're interested in the fight, it is actually being live streamed on YouTube later on tonight. The match doesn't actually start till later after the show. So make sure you stick around for the whole show. It doesn't actually start till after. But I'd love to know in the chat if you're backing one or the other, or you just don't care. Either way, I'd love to know. So unfortunately, Nathan's not going to be here, but you're going to be stuck with the three of us, the three musketeers. We're going to keep sailing this fine ship and deliver you the best and latest news in VR. So next up, if you're new to the show, let me introduce you to the rest of the guys. Be careful with this one, because if you're not careful, then he'll steal your beloved childhood bear. It's the fastest YouTuber alive, Rowdy Guy, aka the Bear Snatcher. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. Actually, the funny thing is that you're talking about this bear, right?
It's, Mr. Bean's bear.
Candy. The funny thing is, I posted this on Twitter. I still have the tag on there even. I posted this on Twitter, and actually Mr. Bean responded and said, "You better give it back." It was actually the verified Twitter account from Mr. Bean, so that was actually kind of funny.
That is awesome, man. That is friggin' awesome. Okay, so next up, in the event of a zombie apocalypse, you'll definitely want to have this guy on your side. It is, of course, our resident VR Twitch streamer, Zimtok5. How you doing, dude? You all right?
That is a bossy intro, Mike. Thank you for that one. I appreciate that, because I have been playing way too much The Walking Dead. I've even got my wife into it now, which is great. I've got a crew of like 5 internationals all working with me, and another team of about 18 working on it. So zombies has definitely been the flavor of my week.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. And last but by no means least, myself, the host of the show, Mike from Virtual Reality Oasis. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Population 1. We discussed this new virtual reality battle royale game coming soon. Will this be the Fortnite of VR? Well, we'll find out. We're going to be talking about the VR presence at Gamescom. I give you the lowdown on all the VR experiences I tried at the event this week. And then finally, we're going to be talking about Arizona Sunshine LB Edition. Can Arizona Sunshine top The Void as the best location-based VR experience? We'll stay tuned to find out. But of course, let's find out what everyone's been up to this week in the metaverse, and let's kick it over to Rowdy, because now he's back up and running. He's got his room set up now. He's got his first video back on track. So I'd be intrigued to know what you've been playing.
Yeah, I actually got playing again yesterday. Yesterday was the first day that I got everything set up. I got myself a green screen now. As you can see right over there, I can like shift to the side. So it's all really compact, very nice. Everything is set up the way I liked it. I drilled some holes in the wall so I could hang up my headsets. So everything is plugged in, everything is good to go. And the first game that I actually played was Megaton Rainfall. It's been released now also on the Oculus Rift. I've played it before on the PlayStation VR headset, but back then I don't think it had motion controls. I think it only had like the track. How's it called again? The controller,
Gamepad.
PlayStation, the DualShock. And I played it with that, and I didn't really like playing with it because it's so finicky with the controls, and you need to be so careful with where you aim or your blast, because you need to actually, you're so powerful that you can't use too much of your powers, because if you use too much of your powers, everyone dies. And you're actually the biggest danger in the entire game, I think. So you need to save the planet from alien invaders, and by doing so, you get like those kind of like Xenocube kind of things, and by doing that, you get more of the story that is actually folding out slowly. Because I don't really know what is going on. You've been chosen in some weird way by your dad with some kind of deity, I think. No idea how the story is unfolding yet, but I've had a lot of fun with it. It's a fun game, and it really gives you that feeling of being a superhero that is completely indestructible and overpowerful. Really cool.
Yeah, I completely agree, actually. And although I thought the game had its flaws in terms of, some of the menu systems were difficult to navigate, some of the controls can be a little bit off at times, but it was the way that the game made you feel that I thought it did so well on. Like, like Super Hot, I've mentioned it before on the show many times that it's kind of one of my favorite VR games. And it's not necessarily because of the mechanics or the way it looks, it's because of the way it makes you feel. It makes you feel like a badass when you play it. And Megaton Rainfall does exactly the same thing. Like, it actually makes you feel like a superhero. And, when you compare it to like Marvel Powers United, you actually feel like a superhero in Megaton Rainfall compared to that other game. So, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
But it's the sense of scale as well that is in that game. Like, you can like fly up and like go to other planets. You can go to other universes. I haven't gotten to that part yet, but it just feels so amazing to be flying around and into that world and into that galaxy, and then to blow stuff up. I love doing that.
Do you like the do you like the screams, Rowdy?
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
That's true, actually.
Going back to that game.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Like, because when like you described, when you're throwing your like balls of lightning and stuff at the alien invaders and you miss, well, then you just like completely level a tower block full of people, and you just hear the screams in the distance.
I got like a new power just now in the last episode, and it was called the Megaton Blast.
Yeah,
and by doing so, it was kind of like a Kamehameha from like Goku. And I was like at the end of I finished the mission, and I had to go and speak to my dad again about how well I did the job. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just try and destroy the city. Let's see how much it takes. And it literally took like one of those, and you see like the shockwave go through the city, blowing all those cars away. I'm releasing that video today. It was such a cool thing to see that, like the shockwave going through, and like all those cars like blown to the side in the circle that is coming from the shockwave. So cool. One of them, like, and it's not even the final power. So I've even read things that you can destroy the entire planet. So I'm gonna go and do that.
You guys obviously haven't been inside the planet yet, have you?
Ooh, inside, no.
Yeah, I've gotten quite far in that game. The thing I was gonna say is, although it can make you feel quite like a badass, when that guy comes down, he says, "My son, all you need to do to proceed to the next level is just get to this cube over here that I've placed. Just come over here to this cube." And with the PlayStation controls, you're like zooming past it and stuff, and you're like, I just can't get to it's easy, son. The cube. Just get to the cube.
The weird thing is, he doesn't call you son, he calls you offspring. And I'm like, excuse me, offspring? Like, what does that even mean? Like, ugh. I was like, I'm Ben. I got a name. I'm Ben.
I'm Ben.
Like, just imagine if your dad calls you offspring or son the entire time. Son is still okay, but offspring?
An idea.
Offspring.
Yeah. That's awesome. But like you say, like when you can go into the planet, that sounds really cool. Because like one of the best moments for me was when I didn't realize you could go into like other solar systems and other planets. And when I took off from Earth and then I just landed on the moon, that for me it was just like, yeah, this game is awesome. Like, this is so much fun. I haven't actually gone back and played more of it yet, but I should. Like, how far sort of are you in it, Zim? Like, how many hours do you reckon you've sunk into it?
Probably 12 to 15, I'd say.
Oh, wow.
Probably 4 or 5 like full-on play sessions. So I'm quite deep in it. I can't say any more. I'll give something away.
Was that on PSVR, or have you got into it again recently?
No, I have a tendency to, like, when a game launches on a platform and I've dug into it, like Skyrim, I'm not going to switch platforms because you'll lose your story progress. Like, I'm just not going to do that, which is actually why I'm so happy that I waited for Moss to land on PC, because that game looks freaking amazing on PC.
Yeah, it's a beautiful game. It's a beautiful game.
I wanted to drop an analogy before you just switched, because I know you're just about to switch. Was if Megaton Rainfall, you're Superman, and Windlands, like you're Spider-Man, It's like I like the fact that VR has its, even though those games don't exist with the official branding, you can still be Superman or Spider-Man if you want to, and there's some good games out there for you.
Yeah, exactly. And touching on Windlands too, it's been in development for some time now, and we're fairly close with the developers of that game, and we've tried it many times throughout its sort of development, and that's really shaping up to be a really cool game, and I'm very excited for when that comes out, because I think not only is it a great game, but it's also a great co-op experience as well. And I think, co-op experiences to me are some of the best experiences you can have in VR, so that's why I'm really excited about that game for sure.
Same.
So what have you been playing this week then, Zim?
Other than killing zombies like crazy, a lot of classics actually. So I've been spending a lot of time with the news we're going to talk about later, with the new graphics, coming out, and a new Assetto Corsa Competizione, game coming very shortly for 2D this month and for VR next month. I've been kind of revamping the servers that I run, which are all under the Zim tag, and so we run 45 servers that are all different kind of maps and mod tracks and base tracks in the Assetto Corsa game. So Assetto's kind of been taking most of my time. But last Sunday, I discovered the most amazing dad trick, which is that kids love Skyrim. And so I played Skyrim for like 4 hours straight, and my 4-year-old and 2-year-old, like no other time before, just sat on the couch and were so happy. And what I could give them the ability to do was, the screen, of course, is showing what's happening in the headset or whatever. But like I'd hand my daughter one of the Move controllers, had my son the other one, and they'd like have like faux sword battles with the two like dual-handed weapons on the screen. Yeah. And so every time I picked up a new weapon, they'd be like, "Oh, Dad, I want to have a go." They'd be like battling each other for like 30 seconds, and then we go again. And my daughter's like, "Dad, can we find another bad guy? I want you to find another bad guy." It was awesome. It was really, really fun.
It's interesting to see that you're still going back to play more Skyrim on PSVR. Dude, that's awesome.
Love it. My opinion has not shifted. That's still my favorite all-time VR game. It's just like a holiday every time I get into it.
Wow. So I wish I had the patience of that game, and I wish I loved it as much as other people do, because it's just one of those experiences that, you can go back.
Have you tried it so far?
Yeah, of course. I played it on PC, and, I played it for like maybe an hour or so, and I was just like, it's just not clicking with me. I just don't feel this like affinity to keep playing anymore. Yeah. But it's a shame, because I know so many people love that game so much.
I can only say this because my community would want me to admit this, but I think it took me the first 20 hours before I even completed one quest. So
right. You just like to take your time, explore every single nook and cranny.
I don't care much for quests. I'm more of an explorer. But the weird thing about Skyrim, which I'm still so baffled by it, that literally you can just go take off over some mountains and then stumble upon a dungeon, and that dungeon will have like 2.5 hours of content. Like that's a VR game right there, right? Like just that dungeon, and you just keep doing it. Like I haven't exhausted anything. It doesn't feel like. I feel like there's still so incredible much to do. And the thing that I did recently, which was a horrible sin, was I didn't broadcast a really cool bit of one of the DLCs that come rolled into VR Skyrim. Some people don't know that all the DLCs that came out are actually baked into the VR version, so you get everything, which means it's an enormous amount of content, on top of an enormous amount of content. But there are some really amazing visuals later in the game. That really pays off.
Are you talking about the nude mods again, or is this like something?
For the record, I've never seen myself the nude mods.
Sure. Wait, actually, in the chat, people are a little bit divided as well. We got Brian Foster, who said, "I could never get into Skyrim either," while Paradise Decay says, "Mike, you're missing out on all of the sci-fi elements in Skyrim."
Yeah. On the Twitch side, actually, here someone has said, "Are these guys going to play some asymmetrical VR games together?" Big smiley face. So I know we have some VR games pegged for the coming weeks, and I know we'll be talking a little bit about that later.
Yeah, hopefully so. So yeah, maybe we'll have something to show you guys and girls. That would be really cool. So this week I was at Gamescom. As a lot of you know, I had the opportunity to play some games, and the one I really want to talk about is Fisherman's Tale. This is a game born from a collaboration between Vertigo Games, the devs that brought you Arizona Sunshine, and the devs that brought you La Paris, which was kind of like a VR ballet kind of experience, which was really sort of magical and quite cool to watch. But this game revolves around being a fisherman in a lighthouse, and within that lighthouse is a model lighthouse, and within that model lighthouse there is another model lighthouse. It's very, very cleverly done. You kind of play the role of the fisherman in the middle of the lighthouses, so when you look up through the roof of the lighthouse, you see a fisherman, and whatever movement you make, that fisherman makes, And then when you look in the model lighthouse in front of you, the small one, there is a tiny little fisherman, and he also mimics the movements that you make.
Oh no, it's a marionette. So they're all stitched together, basically.
Exactly, it's
So
a marionette. So you all move in sync within these kind of little environments. It's so smart the way they do it. And when I played through it, you sort of have to solve puzzles. It's kind of like a puzzle game and room escape game kind of rolled into one. And you use the scale and this kind of like Inception lighthouse kind of thing to solve the puzzles. So to give you an example, there's like a cabinet, but it doesn't have like a handle on it. But you've got this huge anchor in the room that you're in. Whereas if you look in the tiny little lighthouse, you can pick that anchor out, and then you can use that as the sort of handle for your cabinet in the room that you're in. And then other elements of the game where you sort of meet some sort of unlikely allies, like you end up making friends with a little crab, and he's kind of giving you some advice about how you can solve some of the puzzles, but he won't help you unless you give him like a life preserver and a little captain's hat. So you find a life preserver in your room, which is like to scale, but obviously you need it really small. So then you use the giant fisherman above you to sort of scale it down. And then the funny thing is, when you put that preserver over the fisherman in the model, the small model, it actually goes over you as well. So it's completely mind-bending. And sometimes when I think about this game, it actually makes my head hurt. Like,
yeah, even when you're talking about it, I'm already thinking like, wait, so you need to put the giant needs to put the little crab hat, and then like I'm already lost there.
So a good way to kind of give an example of it is if you ever played Floor Plan. Like, it's quite an old VR game where you was in a lift and you had to solve puzzles on different floors, where there was one where you could put stuff on the floor of one, and then when you go to another floor it's much bigger, and then you could use that mechanic to kind of scale up or scale down items if you needed to. And that's kind of like the hook that this game revolves around. But it was very well done. Like, it's narrated the whole way through as well. So you got this like narration of this kind of French fisherman giving you the story, which kind of leads you along the game. And I finished the first sort of level, and apparently it's got sort of 4 levels in total. And they reckon it's probably going to take an hour to 2 hours to finish. So not a particularly long game, but it's very rich in sort of detail. It's very colorful, and overall, like, the most important thing is it's fun to play. So I really enjoyed my time with that one. As people know, if you're a regular of the podcast, I really enjoy puzzle games in VR. It's one of my favorite genres in VR. So I was really excited to play this one. Yeah, it was a really cool one to play. It's coming out later on in the year on HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, Windows MR, and PSVR. So if you like puzzle games in VR, then this is one to definitely keep an eye on.
Is there an exact release date already that it's coming out?
Not exact release date. I think it's just coming out later on in the year, but I don't think it's that far away. Maybe in the next couple of months. Yeah, but it was very interesting.
Was the story side, because like the little aspect, the little flares, like with the crab and that, I mean, sometimes you can have a story in a game and it's really about the characters or the set pieces that you have. Did you find it stitched together quite well, or?
Yeah, so like, the story, the basic premise of the game is that a storm is coming. You live in the lighthouse. You have to put the light on to save like people because the storm's so fierce. And yeah, it just has this kind of like mind-bending sort of Inception style gameplay to it. And yeah, when you're sort of trying to work with this little crab, it does get a bit crazy, but it makes the gameplay very interesting. Especially when he's like,
you're recounting your crab tales does sound a little crazy, Mike.
Yeah, I won't be sharing any more of those stories. But yeah, so that was the game I played at Gamescom this week that stood out in my mind and I wanted to share. But whilst we're on the subject of puzzle games, let's talk about the first subject of our quick news this week, and that is a game called Twilight Path. Now, if you're familiar with a game called Form, it was a sort of puzzle game that was released a while ago in VR, so you could pick it up on Steam VR, and it's available on the Oculus Store as well. But it was a puzzle game made by Charm Games, and it's probably one of my favorite VR puzzle games, even though I was very sort of critical of it for being so short, because it was only like an hour long. But what they did in that game, I haven't really seen in any other puzzle game, and that was that the whole world kind of transformed from one puzzle to the next in like almost like a transformer, like the movie Transformers, where they like transform into cars and robots. The puzzles transformed, but in such a satisfying way. You just thought it must have taken them friggin' ages to make this game.
Which one is this?
Form.
Yeah,
Like in
yeah.
capital
I believe you played it as well, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So the premise of that game is fairly simple. You play the role of a scientist. Experiment goes wrong. You end up in this kind of mysterious world. You have to solve puzzles to try and escape. This is kind of similar in its narrative in that you're set in a mystical realm between the real world and the afterlife, and you have to explore a land of mystery and enchantment and restore balance to find your way home. So similar sort of premise, but Charm Games, they did such a fantastic job with form that I'm really excited the fact that they're going to do another puzzle game in this game called Twilight Path. They've got some interesting mechanics that they show in the trailer, like using telekinesis to repair buildings and a bridge. And also this kind of lens that you have to sort of put in place to solve puzzles, to reveal sort of like hidden clues and mysteries, how to solve puzzles. So again, another cool puzzle game that we've got to look forward to, which again is coming out later on this year. So looks like we've got some really class A puzzle games coming. If you like that sort of genre, you're going to be spoilt for choice later on this year, it seems.
Is there an exact date for that one?
No exact date for that one because they've only literally just announced it. But again, we're going to be talking about another puzzle game later on in the show as well called Torn, which we'll be touching on a little bit later. So you've got these three
podcast, the puzzle podcast,
the puzzle VR podcast. But yeah, it's kind of funny because just recently it's kind of felt like we've had a bit of a dry patch in terms of games coming out, and then all of a sudden we've got so many, we can barely contain ourselves. So I kind of like it when that happens. We're going to be spoilt for content soon enough, which is going to be really cool again.
Awesome.
Puzzle games are actually one of the stronger areas since the early outset of VR, because there are plenty of single developer teams that have come up with some very inventive kind of room escapes or puzzle games that don't necessarily have a lot of flash and bling, but are really satisfying to play. So there's loads. There's probably, off of my list, even I would say 30, probably upwards of 40 solid puzzle game. So if you're a puzzler out there and you're not into VR yet, totally look into that.
Yeah, totally. And one that I keep on meaning to go back and play more of is I Expect You to Die, because I haven't played it since they did the new DLC, which is that train level. And I hear it's really good. It's really good.
You're gonna pull your hair out. You're not existing.
Also, the humor in that game is really well done. Like the gist of it, like it's so well done.
It is. So our next piece of small news this week is Transference. Transference is a game coming soon to VR and non-VR. It's kind of like made by a studio hosted by Elijah Wood, which is like Spectravision, and they've basically worked with Ubisoft Montreal to put this game together. It's kind of a trippy, kind of mind-bending PTSD style game. It's really strange. I got to play it at Gamescom, like the first level of the game, but they've got a demo that is exclusive to PlayStation VR and PlayStation as well. So if you're interested, you can go and check that out. It's called the Walter Test Case, and it's actually a prequel to the game. So it takes place several years before the events of Transference, and you enter the experiment that laid the foundation of the events that follows later on in the main game. And like I say, you have to sort of go through a troubled test subject's suffering of post-traumatic stress syndrome and sort of piece together his kind of memories in attempt to kind of understand what the heck is going on in this story. The sort of level that I played it at Gamescom, it had a sort of a video introduction from like the scientist, which is the father of the family, and it kind of just touches on the fact that he was experimenting with some crazy stuff in his day job, and then he decides to take that experimentation home and start testing it on his family, and then that's when things get really
Mike, doesn't it?
It gets super messed up. Like, you basically have to piece together his memories, but you can do it from other people's perspectives as well, and the way they do it in the game to switch from one person's perspective to the other is by flicking the light switches. And then you can sort of take the role of the son, you can take the role of the father, and then eventually the wife as well, to try and piece the story together. But it's very strange, very creepy. It's kind of got this
cool how they mix the gameplay together with like the movie scenes, since you have like characters that are actually like physical actors. That's
exactly.
Really well done. In the trailer, at least, it looks really cool.
You don't see that much in VR, so it's kind of a bit refreshing. But yeah, the game is completely messed up, very creepy and unsettling, because you have no idea really what's going on. And it's kind of like, the family's going through this like turmoil, and then you sort of get parts where like you'll see the kid running in the background like you do in like that scene in Aliens where they just catch a glimpse of like the alien running through the vent and they're just like, oh shit. It's kind of like that.
It's exactly like that,
but yeah, the demo is available for free to check out, and it's just like a precursor just to kind of warm you up a little bit for the game that's coming out in September. It's going to be launching on the 18th of September. The full game is going to be available on PlayStation VR, Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, and then you can also play the game pancake mode on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. So they're covering all bases on this one. But yeah, it's a really interesting one to play in VR, and I think it adds a lot more to it. You actually feel like you're a part of the game. It was again, the demo was over pretty quickly that I tried at Gamescom, but again, it's very interesting and sort of, sort of like a refreshing sort of like mix of this sort of new gameplay. So again, another one to sort of look out for and keep an eye on that's coming soon to VR as well.
My initial thoughts of Transference, and I played it last year, and I think the demo is still framed about the same thing as they were showing at Oculus Connect 4 last year. I think accessibility might be a problem for them. I kind of put it in a category like Paranormal Activities. No, there's another game that I'm thinking of it's similar to. There's a kind of horror title that it's like, but as you say, it's a bit messed up, and kind of you step away from it going like, is this a PTSD simulator? Because that's kind of what it is. And I won't give away the story because I think the story is maybe its strongest part. But to me, the game design, it felt a little 90s. This kind of like pick you up from one scene, drop you in another time, drop you in another time. I didn't really take a liking to it personally.
Well, it depends on how well they do
it. What the wider experience turns out to be.
It's kind of like got elements of like glitches, like what's real, what's not real. You question the reality around you, and you sort of hear voices, and it's super weird.
Stranger Things vibe.
Yeah, like that kind of Black Mirror, Twilight Zone, Stranger Things kind of mix of just messed up sort of story.
Perfect Blue. You guys probably don't know that reference.
Never heard of Perfect Blue.
If you're into adult films, and I don't mean that like adult films, like XXX films.
Here we go again.
Hold on. So this is a manga, right? It's an anime, so it's a animated film. But there's the most fecked up mental trip you will see. It's very good. So if you can track down a copy of it, because it's kind of rare, Perfect Blue is worth watching. It's got some techie stuff as well.
So is it sexy or is it scary or is it a bit of both? Sexy, scary.
More scary than sexy.
Right, okay.
A little bit of both. Yeah.
I'll ask the chat what if they know it. If they know it. So then, if the chat knows it, then you're not the only person, okay?
If Akira was like sci-fi, then this is more focused around like a pop star culture, but things go very wrong. So that's all I'm going to leave it at.
Let's find out who the freaks are in the chat who really like this kind of sexy cartoons.
Yeah. Everyone is saying that they're not having a clue, but I'm not trusting them yet.
Yeah, liars. We know it. We know your secrets. Okay, so let's move on to sort of the biggest announcement this week in sort of like tech and PC gaming in general, and that is Nvidia launching their RTX 20 series graphics cards. So just before Gamescom started last week on Monday, Nvidia held an unveiling event in the center of Cologne, and I queued up outside the event for 3 hours so I could get in there and actually sort of be a part of the whole sort of event as it unfolds. It was kind of worth it in the end. It was cool to be there, be part of this huge unveiling, and also I was able to get my face on the Nvidia pre-stream Twitch stream, which was really, really cool. It kind of happened in a weird way, just to kind of tell you a little story about how that happened. I was kind of in the audience just sitting there waiting for the keynote to start, and then some guy comes over and says, oh, does anyone want to be on the pre-stream? And everyone around me were kind of like journalists, and they were like, nah, I don't want my face on camera. And initially I was like, no, of course not. But then I was like, yeah, of course I do. Like, I want to try and get my face on the Twitch stream. I could talk about VR. And then he was like, what do you do? I was like, I've got a VR YouTube channel. He was like, oh, cool. So I thought, yeah, this is going to be a great opportunity. And then literally 5 seconds later, that's when it started. So I had literally 5 seconds to prepare for it. But it went really well. It was nice to talk to the lady there. And she sort of joked at the end because I told her that, I collected headsets. That, maybe I could help her out with like a headset. And I said, well, you work for Nvidia, so maybe you could help me out with a graphics card. But that didn't work out, unfortunately. No sort of surprise like under your seat or anything like that. I was hoping for that, like, oh, everyone just check under your seat. You've got like an RTX 2080 Ti, but unfortunately that never happened. No one got a free graphics card. But the keynote itself was kind of interesting.
If you're an Nvidia GeForce developer, then you got a free graphics card, right?
Yeah, you did.
That's true. I was going to say,
that's true. Yeah,
she doesn't work directly for Nvidia. She was flown in talent. Yeah.
Okay.
So just like one of us, Mike. I mean, she's kind of flown in talent, but she's big enough following on.
One of us.
Exactly. One of us. Yeah, exactly. But,
has she got like a Twitch channel, or is she?
Yeah, I'll link you up later.
Cool. I look forward to seeing that then.
But it was nice to see the string, because it was like Mike there right out the front, and then following that was like 3 or 4 or 5 names of big Twitch streamers who I know, who you guys might not know. There was Frisk there from the tournament that we did in Brass Tactics. There was the world's most renowned DayZ player, Sacriel, and his girlfriend, who got really big and popular when she first interviewed Dean Hall back in the DayZ days. And that's Shannon Zedkiller. She was really big within the Twitch staff side of things, not just the broadcasting side. So
awesome.
Your face went first. So good job on you, Mike.
Yeah, no, I was very fortunate, lucky, good timing, and in the right place. So, it could have been any rando really. But yeah, the keynote was kind of interesting, but it did feel like a 2-hour-long science lesson, because I didn't really pay that much attention in school. So for me, it was just like being in school again in a science lesson where I didn't understand what the hell he was talking about. But to sort of sum it up into layman's terms, if you're sort of a bit like me and you don't really sort of understand the full details of ray tracing, essentially what it means is like it's just advanced light rendering technology that basically allows rendering of shadows and lighting in real time. So it's kind of a very exciting technology for developers, because a lot of the times in games they have to fake reflections, lighting, and shadows. Whereas what this technology does is, if you just put the assets in a world, then the shadows and the lighting will be rendered in real time. So that's kind of interesting, saves them time, and also looks awesome as well and more realistic. So
it's not just time. Like the key thing about this card and the evolution that they've talked about, which is very exciting. I was going to go take the dog for a walk, ended up watching 3-hour freaking broadcast, was just the word efficiency. So it's efficient, and that's what allows them to take the power step up and actually take the chip and divide it in half and say, you know what, forget it. This other half of the chip isn't even going to be related to the stuff that we have been doing up to this point. It's even more powerful, but this other side brings in all the magic. And I don't know if you're touching on some of that stuff, but I found the adoption of AI in that core really interesting. The fact that they're actually using neural net technology, and I love the presentation, to be honest. I thought they did the right balance of kind of geek and layman to balance it without losing you. Unlike some people we know, cough, cough, you know who I'm talking about. Anyway.
Because it works, right? It just works.
It just works.
That's what they kept on saying. It just works. It just works.
They said that like a billion times with every scene. Like, wow, it just works.
Yeah.
And there's even people saying in the chat as well, because we got some developers here as well. We got Brian Foster saying, as a dev, I can confirm, so I guess it is to use him. I am very excited for real-time ray tracing, no more faking lighting and shadows. And I guess that is true. It's much more efficient if you have something that just works instead of like having to fake everything to make it look good.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing I was a bit disappointed on was that, obviously that was there as a virtual reality channel. And I was really hoping, because, we all kind of heard the rumors prior leading up to the event that it was going to feature this new virtual link connector on the card. And, it did. They said that, the 20 series will feature this virtual link connector, which is a USB-C cable, which can carry video, data, and power down a single cable. So, it will make it easier. You don't have to have this cumbersome, 3-4 cables running back to your PC. But they didn't mention it really. They touched on it very briefly.
Announced that, right? They announced that before already.
Yeah,
I'm with Mike on this one. I'm surprised they didn't say more about it, but I think also seeing that their lineup of VR titles, I saw In Death in one corner, which is a cool game. I'm glad they're bringing the shadowy tricks in there. And then I saw a set of Competizione on the other side. Yeah. Was there anything else VR-wise in that? It was very light.
Very light. Yeah, and I think that's maybe why they didn't talk about it, was because right now there isn't a headset that supports it. So they may be like, why would we talk about a feature that maybe we don't have any support for right now? But I think it would have been exciting, because, especially for me, because they would have said, this is going to support the next generation of headsets, and even that alone would have got me excited. So it's a shame they didn't mention that during the show, but...
maybe we should play a little bit of like the devil's advocate. Maybe there's also a reason why they didn't show it. Maybe
There might be a
it has not that much of a positive influence on virtual reality.
Who knows? I think it is
We
exciting.
haven't seen any benchmarks yet, so did any
No,
of
we
you
haven't.
already order the card?
No, so I haven't
Pre-ordered?
pre-ordered. No.
You know
No.
my secret here, Rowdy, which is
no
when we fly
pre-orders.
out to the States,
Ah, yeah,
if you get it there,
that's right. We'll get it there. It's
40%
much
off.
cheaper.
Thank you, Brexit. Fuck you.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and like, you know, I was watching Jay's 2 cents video earlier. You know, I really like that guy. He's really interesting when he talks about PC, and he's like taught me everything I know about water cooling. So I trust that guy. But he was just like, you know, don't pre-order the card. You know, wait till it comes out. Wait till the sort of specs come out. Wait till the benchmarks come out. You just don't know yet. But also, what he was saying was that you know, because a lot of people were complaining about the pricing structure, you know, like the RTX 2080 Ti is actually like a 1,099 British pounds, 1,199 US dollars. And what he was saying was that card is actually the GTX Titan X, but rebranded as the 2080 Ti, and that everything else has kind of stayed in its kind of pigeonhole. Like, you know, the 2080 is still the 1080, the 2070 is still the 1070 sort of price range, but the 1080 the 2080 Ti is kind of like taking over the place of what the Titan X would have been in that place at that sort of price point. So it was very interesting what he had to say on that. If you're interested, I'd recommend you go and check it out. But he was saying, yeah, you know, hold fire, don't pre-order just yet. Wait till the specs comes out. Because the Founders Editions cards are actually much more expensive than they said in the stream. They said in the stream that the 2080 Ti was actually going to be $999, but you know, the actual Founders Edition is actually $200 more expensive. And then I know we've got a lot of like you know, partner cards from Asus, EVGA, all the others. They're coming out as well, but they're all very expensive. So it's probably worth waiting, especially if we don't have a headset right now that supports it in terms of VR. And, you know, as far as games that support ray tracing, like you say, In Death, and there is another one actually that they weren't mentioned on the keynote, but it is actually supposed to support ray tracing. We'll be talking about that a little bit later on.
It depends, really, I guess, on like, you know, if you really want like the future-proof card, then, you know, you're gonna have to get this one, because I mean, probably the 1080 Ti can still run everything that is gonna come out in the coming year or 2 years probably. But then after that, you know, you want to future-proof your PC a bit, and I'm definitely going to upgrade to a 2080 Ti probably, because I'm still running a 980 Ti. I haven't bought the 1080 Ti when it came out, so I'm actually already 2 generations behind. So for me, it makes sense to go and upgrade to the 2080 Ti. But I am still going to wait for the benchmarks. I'm still going to wait.
Yeah, and like you said, Zim, you know, we're all going to America end of September anyway.
Going to America!
So, you know, it's going to be cheaper for us to buy one over there and just bring it back. But they reckon they're going to be in retail stores from the 20th of September. But for me, like for a PC that's water cooled as well, like I need to make sure that I can get hold of a water block at the same time. Otherwise, the card's going to like useless to me. So I have to wait for them to be made as well.
I'm just gonna roll a tear down my cheek.
Like first world problems, right? Like,
but the cards are really pretty. Like and there's a whole bunch of different ones out. Lots of them have the usual fan set on top, but there's this, as a guy who appreciates hardware, there's the vacuum cooler that they've built specifically for it to help noise dampen and perform on thermal conduction better. I want that model, if possible, of the 2080. Like, I'm probably not going to go for the Ti. I tend to go for things that are kind of midpoint, but I've been running the 1080 for a long time. And the 1080 was just, it kind of takes anything you throw at it, which is like such a lovely thing. But the thing that I'm most excited about for this is that processing engine that can kind of guess what the next frame is going to be, can guess what an upscaler, you know, needs to do. Like, the amount of guesswork that this card can do is very interesting to me in terms of what it's going to impact, because it's such an important stepstone for us VR wise to be able to on the fly dynamically determine for, you know, foveated rendering and that dynamic kind of where is he looking and, you know, what is the cone of vision that we need to render for. That's not built into the hardware today. And so this change should make a very big difference from what I'm reading into it to VR. And that actually propels us into whatever headset that HTC or Oculus want to run next. Brilliant. That's where we're going, you know. It doesn't help Sony at all, but, you know, there you go.
No. But you're right. They did actually touch on foveated rendering during the keynote, and they discussed how this technology would help that. So yeah, you're right. It is going to help us in the future for sure. I'd love to know in the chat if you've pre-ordered one, like, and which one you pre-ordered, which one you went for. If you went for a partner card or you went for like the Founders Edition from Nvidia, because you can only get the Founders Edition through Nvidia's official website. You know, the third-party resellers aren't actually selling the Founders Editions, which is kind of interesting as well.
Most people have actually been saying that they haven't pre-ordered. I haven't seen a single comment yet that said, yeah, I've pre-ordered one. Most people said it's too expensive. It's even more expensive. Chris Cox says that he hopes that his 1080 will last for another 2 years. And yeah,
but I think a lot of people also trade up. So I mean, this is a great when the new card drops. One of the things to watch out for is the secondary card market. Because what a lot of people will do, if you're just like, say you're 19 and you worked throughout the summer and you bought yourself a 1080, and then this card drops and you're like, you'll probably flip that card and try to upgrade. That's like some of the mentality that a lot of people have, especially in gaming.
I know that I said that that Nathy does that indeed. That Nathy buys like the previous generation, buys like the next generation and sells like the previous generation then every time. Yeah.
Plus what he does is he signs them and sells them to fans for like double the price. So he actually makes money in upgrading.
Actually, the truth.
Yeah. The fact that he's not here to defend himself, we can say whatever we like. So there you have it. So yeah, that is the new Nvidia cards. So let's move on to our next part of the show, which is games that are releasing next week, and we've got some really cool titles releasing next week in VR. Definitely ones you should keep an eye on. PSVR owners are going to be super happy because Firewall Zero Hour is finally dropping on Tuesday, the 28th of August. If you're not familiar with this game, it's a military squad-based shooter from First Contact Entertainment. Now, the game is like an 8-player 4v4 multiplayer game. Takes place in sort of exotic and dangerous locations across the globe, and it's kind of like Rainbow Six Siege in VR, essentially. The game modes will be objective-based, and the key to success in any of these game modes is to work together as a team, communicate effectively, and work together to sort of complete your objective. Now, the objectives as attackers, your job is to bypass the firewall access points, locate a laptop, and initiate a hack to obtain the data contained on the laptop. You have to sort of plan your approach and bypass and eliminate any hostiles that stand in your way. And as defenders, your role is to protect the laptop at all costs, fortify your location, and secure the firewall access points, and force your enemy into choke points that will prevent the hack and protect the data. So that's kind of cool. The game features 12 different mercenaries that you can choose from, each of which have like a kind of unique special ability. So whether that's like reloading faster, or they can see enemy traps from a greater distance, that kind of thing. And also you have upgradable weapons and nine different maps to play on. Like I say, it's going to be releasing on Tuesday the 28th, exclusively for PSVR, which is a shame because this kind of looks like a cool military shooter. It would have done well probably on Rift and Vive as well, but it's one of these PlayStation exclusive games. It uses the aim controller or the gamepad. It doesn't use the move controllers, so you have to choose one or the other.
Mike, did you remember to bring the USB key? We got the data ready for extraction. Mike, you didn't forget the data key again, did you?
Sorry, I left it in my other military underwear pants. Yeah.
Rowdy, could we please, Mike, just...
So you guys, have you guys both got the aim controller?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. And I'm pretty sure Nathy has one as well. So this is kind of one of those games that it's been a while since I've been really excited about like a PlayStation game coming out. I know they've got some cool games lined up, but this one really sort of piqued my interest. So I'm quite excited about playing this, especially with you guys, because as it's 4v4, we can team up as 4 players. Go against some maybe another podcast or something like that. That would be really fun, like we've mentioned before. So maybe put it out there to like the VR Roundtable guys and the VR Spies guys. If you're interested in going like toe to toe in a PSVR game, then let's do it. Let's make this happen.
So lose against the Spies. I'm just saying that.
Caleb.
All they do is FPS games. Like they would fucking nuke us.
Yeah. You know what we do? I got a brilliant idea. I'll just fly to Lonely Viper. I'll let him play, and I'll just use my voice, and I'll let him like shoot everyone.
Genius.
Oh, genius! I did it on stream now.
Genius.
But I think the number one. I'm going to make a prediction here, Mike. That's why I was kind of squeezing my head in a funny way. The prediction here is the number one gripe that I think all of us are going to have is the limited view and not ability to 360 with the gun.
Yeah.
Because Farpoint and other AIM titles, that has been my number one gripe. If the biggest tip I can give, because Mike, you're not as veteran as maybe Rowdy and I on PSVR, get that camera as far away as you can. That's the trick.
Yeah. I think like you said, it's probably going to be snap rotation on the thumbstick, right, to handle that kind of issue of not being able to turn around 360.
Yeah, but there's still the inherent like want. Your body will want to turn around when, and then you get the. It'll be interesting how because obviously in the screens that they're showing, they're not showing you whatever GUI or pop up shows you. Oh, you're out of bounds, because Farpoint was quite invasive at the start before they patched it.
Right.
And it was quite annoying every time you're like, oh god, now I'm out of the camera again, or again even the kind of up and down movement. So if you're ducking or you're back up, you might come out of the zone and then you get a warning pop up. It can be very immersion breaking. So if you're set up, I would just say spend quality time setting yourself up. If you're hyped up for this game, you're planning to play it on drop day, and if you are having problems, think about your configuration. If you can somehow generate even an additional couple of feet, it may really help you and make the experience a lot better.
From what I heard, they will actually have a button that you can duck. Because I was thinking about this, because my PlayStation is actually in my bed. So I just go prone the whole time. So it's going to be weird for me to play, but I think they've got a duck button. So I am looking forward to this one. But just one point to be aware of if you are a PSVR owner is that you do need a PS Plus membership, which not everyone has. Yeah, exactly. And that's not something that I really consider because I'm not a PS Plus member. But it's $6.99 a month, I think, in British pounds. So if I want to play it, I need to sort of throw that down. But I think it's going to be worth it for this one.
You can watch out for sales. A lot of times here in the UK, there will be like sales on Amazon and places like that where you can get a year subscription for 30 quid. So think about it, because there will be other titles, and it depends on how deep you're planning to go into the PlayStation pit.
Yeah. But no, that's one I'm definitely looking forward to. I'd love to know in the chat as well if others are looking forward to it.
I said it with a lovely, wonderful typo on Twitter, but Rainbow Six was a huge game for me. Like, I loved that. Even though the guys looked like big, fat, inflated ducks, and you were like, 6 go, 7 go, and you like break through the door or whatever. The land play with that was really good. So I'm super looking forward to something like this. Some people have, I think IGN commented that it was a bit like a mix of Rainbow Six and GoldenEye, which sounds like a pretty good blend. And I'm hoping it's leaning more towards the Rainbow Six than the GoldenEye, because I'm not convinced that GoldenEye hasn't already been done through things like Pavlov and
And the devs have said that that although there's only like really 2 sort of game modes right now, attackers or defenders, that they're definitely going to be supporting this post-launch with more updates, more sort of stuff that you can play around with, more game modes, more characters, and all that kind of business. So it's going to be an interesting one. It's $34.99 in British pounds, $39.99 in US dollars, and then they do an AIM controller bundle as well, which is a little bit more expensive. So that is Firewall Zero Hour. So if you're not really into sort of military shooters and you're into puzzle games, you are on the correct podcast, the Puzzle Podcast in VR. You're going to be interested in Torn, because that is going to be coming out on the same day, Tuesday, the 28th of August, and it's going to be available for Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, and PSVR. Now, Torn is a sort of dark science fiction mystery puzzle game. You take the role of a video blogger, Catherine Patterson, who discovers an abandoned mansion of a Dr. Lawrence Talbot, who's an eccentric scientist who's been missing for the past 64 years. And this kind of mansion has been left dormant, and no one's really sort of been there or knows what happened to him. But you are investigating it. You sort of find out this kind of weird sequence of events that happen to lead up to his disappearance. And you can use some of his tools that he's left around, sort of like a gravity tool, to activate his machines and then transport to a strange dimension known as the parallel, to uncover the mystery of why he disappeared and what all kind of happened. So that kind of looks kind of interesting. Loads of puzzles. And they kind of describe it as a sandbox VR tourist destination built for fans of classic science fiction like The Twilight Zone and Black Mirror. So if you like those kind of TV shows, you're going to probably dig this one. And like I say, it's going to be on Rift, Vive, and PSVR, but no pricing just yet. So another one, if you're interested in puzzle games, to keep an eye on.
It's weird. I don't know. I get this feeling like I've either watched this several times over, or I've played this.
So
I think we covered it about 3-4 months ago.
We did when it was just announced. We covered it on the show and we talked about it.
Yeah. No,
but again, it looks interesting, and like we said before, beautiful. It does. Like graphically, it looks great. So it's got all those kind of shadows and reflections on kind of some of the items that they're picking up. So it looks really detailed.
Tracing.
I was gonna say RTX on.
No ray tracing. No ray tracing. Although, like some of those RTX on memes have just been freaking hilarious. The Lara Croft one is just so funny. Like if you haven't seen that meme,
I even made one of myself.
You did?
Yeah, like with like all like rainbows and stuff behind me, and like kisses on my face. Like, I get everything then.
Cool. There you go. You should go and check that out. I loved it when people made memes of you crashing through the door using this sort of the shining, like we were discussing last week. Someone actually made it. Yeah, it was so good. There was like a Vive controller through a door, and Rowdy put his face through it.
I'll look it up.
Here's
we can
Rowdy.
show it at the end of the podcast. Let's do that.
Yeah. Okay, so they're the games coming out this week. So we've got some interesting games coming this week, which is a nice change. Previously, it's kind of been a bit of a barren desert of good-looking games, but we've got a couple of cool ones coming soon, so that's interesting.
It's not that bad, Mike. There's plenty of quality titles like Skyrim to go back to. Skyrim, and Subnautica. Oh, and Resident Evil.
Oh God! Every show until I get that game, you're going to mention it every single show. So let's talk about one of our main topics this week, and that is Population 1. So as we know, the battle royale genre is like freaking huge. It's unparalleled, really, right now. Games like PUBG and Fortnite led the explosion of the genre, and it's just got no signs of slowing down right now. Even Call of Duty are trying to sort of hop in on the genre with their new game Black Ops 4. It's going to have a battle royale mode, and they're ditching single player completely to sort of go along this like new line. We've got some cool battle royale games in VR as well. Like we've got Standout, we've got BAM, and then my personal favorite, Rec Room Royale. They're really sort of fun battle royale games. But this new one is really sort of aiming to up the ante and sort of add that level of polish and realism to their game. So it looks kind of interesting. It's actually made by the devs called Big Box VR. They're the same devs that made Smashbox Arena. So they're no strangers to sort of VR multiplayer games. I don't know if either of you guys have played Smashbox Arena.
Yeah, I did. No? I liked it quite a bit. A bit. It was a fun game. I think it generated too little noise, unfortunately, for obviously the polish that went into it. It was very fun. Modes of basically not the same kind of. It was quite a kiddish looking game.
Yeah, it was.
And with these kind of balls or paintball, and you can get a shield, you can get different power ups. But it was really well thought out, I thought. So actually, that makes me feel a lot better than, let's say, the trailer did for this one.
Yeah, it shows that they've got some sort of pedigree in that space, which is kind of cool. Because like Smashbox Arena was on PSVR and PC VR headsets as well. But this game, they're saying that they've got a locomotion system called Free Locomotion that gives players the freedom to climb anything. So you can just like literally go up to a building and just start grabbing it with your hands and actually climb up it with your hands, which is kind of interesting. A bit like what Planet of the Apes did with their sort of like locomotion system, which I thought was actually really smart and well implemented. You could just walk up to a pole or something like that, just start scaling it. And then when you're on top of these buildings, you can just leap off them and actually use a jetpack to kind of glide down into the battlefield or to other areas. So that seems like a kind of a fun mechanic. They're saying as well that through extensive playtests that they've developed technologies which allow players to move freely in virtual reality without limits or discomfort. So I don't know if that's necessarily new technology, because so many people have already done that kind of thing, with vignetting and sort of free locomotion methods that don't make people throw up all over the place. But it'll be interesting to see if they have brought anything new to the table. But the game also features a expansive 1 square kilometer of world that they're showing off. And like you probably can see in the trailer, it's quite vibrant, lots of sort of jungle areas, wooded areas, sort of buildings. But the interesting thing is that they've actually implemented building yourself in this game. So just like Fortnite, if you watch pro Fortnite players, you will see that building is such an important mechanic of being successful at Fortnite, and they've actually implemented this in the VR game, which they haven't done in previous kind of battle royale games that we've seen in VR. So you can actually build platforms as you're running ahead of you and sort of start ramping up and scaling. So you've got this kind of verticality in the game that's going to be very interesting. You can
I'm going
play.
to be a little ageist for a second here, Mike, because
Yeah.
I have to say, having dipped into and played Fortnite a couple of times,
Yeah.
that mechanic has to be the thing that is tuned to like teenagers and their ability to kind of like just do like 60 things in a second. Because my God, the older I get, the less my ability to play in that way, the way people do. Like, that is a skill. Fair enough, it's a skill, but it is a skill for young people. I'm gonna get my cane now. All right.
Yeah, you
That is,
should.
and to
These
do that
damn
in VR as
kids.
well. Oh my God,
Yeah.
this sounds like totally overwhelming, to be honest.
Yeah, but it'll be very interesting, like, and I think games like that, especially Fortnite, it really takes practice. You really have to sink hours into a game like that to really be any good at it. And I wonder if this is going to be the same with this game as well. Like, you really have to invest time into learning those building mechanics, how to sort of make a fort really quickly to sort of defend yourself, and then, jump from above and do that, what is it, the shotgun from above trick that they do in Fortnite and just murder everyone every time, including me. But this game, you can actually play online, solo, or in squads, but it's also going to feature some single-player missions as well, so that's kind of interesting. I guess, if you really suck like me, then you can take some solace in that you can maybe play some single-player and feel like you're doing well when in real life
So they
you
put
really
in a
do suck.
rowdy mode then. That's good.
Rowdy mode, yeah.
Exactly.
Rowdy noob mode.
I tried Fortnite one time after I installed it on Switch because it was free on there as well. So I installed it, I booted it up, I started it, I couldn't figure out how it worked, and I stopped playing it.
Yeah,
good on you.
That's pretty much how my sort of games go. I sort of fly down to the surface and then get murdered within like 2 minutes, and then I'm like, that was fun. Let's try again. And then it just happens again. I'm like, yeah, screw this game.
It's funny, I've been playing battle royale mods since early days, and I watched like DayZ Survivor games and that before this whole kind of explosion of battle royale. So I've loved this, and as a competitive esport, it is the number one thing I would want to watch. I'd love to see DayZ Survivor games kick off again, which was kind of like this, where they took, I think it was like 32 different teams of pairs of two, and you'd work together, and then last standing team of two takes the win. But this kind of genre, obviously lots of people are milking money off of it, but it seems to be, oddly, a kind of safe bet for companies. So the entrepreneur in me says this company's not, having done Smashbox Arena, which was kind of cutesy, then turned around and with their investors or whatever say, you know what, we're going to make a more serious thing. Let's go for maybe a little bit more surefire bet with a kind of a snazzy name. Population One certainly ticks my boxes. I hope it actually plays off. As I said, I wasn't too convinced by the trailer. They kind of allowed some of the rough animations to kind of sneak in, which I hope won't douse anyone else's kind of anticipation for the game. But as again, I like PUBG quite a bit. I don't play it that much anymore, but the genre has a lot still has legs. So they could do very well if they
and plus
successful title.
It's still really early because they're not actually launching the game till early 2019.
Okay.
But you can sign up now for the private beta. You can be part of a private beta sort of alpha group if you've got Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, and Windows MR headsets. But interestingly, this is the one other game that I was talking about that actually features ray tracing. So In Death is one of them, and Population One is the second one that we know of that features ray tracing.
That is
so
smart.
It's
such a smart game, because when you splash feck tons of cash on a piece of hardware, what's the first thing you do? You go to the list of compatible games and you go, which ones am I interested in?
Yep. And funnily enough, they were actually showing this game off during Gamescom, but I was completely unaware of it. I didn't see it anywhere, and I did go everywhere pretty much around Gamescom. So I was surprised to hear that they actually, Nvidia were working in partnership with them to kind of announce the game. But I literally didn't hear anything about it until I came back home and was researching it this morning. So it's a bit of a shame I missed out to sort of go and meet the guys and talk more about the game itself. But it is what it is. But I've signed up for the alpha. So although it's like kind of shrouded by NDAs, you can't really talk about it once you're sort of in the game. But it'll be interesting to check it out and see how it progresses over the next few months.
Just to practice.
Get us practicing. So I'm not a noob when the game comes out, although I still will be a noob. It's like my dad at Christmas time. He was like, he'd buy me like a Game Boy or whatever, and he'd be like, yeah, I stayed up all night and put the high score on, and I just like first game just blitzes high score. Yeah, nice try, Dad.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is Population 1 coming next year. If you're into Battle Royale games, you'll be interested in that one. But let's talk about other VR stuff that I did actually get to check out at Gamescom. I think, our predictions last week were pretty much spot on in that there wasn't any surprise announcements. No Half-Life 3 confirmed, I'm afraid. Like I said at the beginning of the show, there were some new games, though, like Fisherman's Tale, Transference. And I also got to try out Arizona Sunshine, the location-based experience, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. But despite that, there wasn't really anything else in terms of games. But they did have a lot of VR hardware, and I thought that was kind of interesting because they had haptic suits, flying machines, treadmills, all different types of ways to do locomotion as well. So I'll talk about the ones that I got to sort of get hands on with. And first up were Hypersuit and Icarus. Both of them were flying machines. So the Hypersuit was like one with like a lot of motors in, and it was a very substantial piece of kit. And you sort of straddle it like a motorbike and then lay down and sort of rest your chest on the top of it. So you're sort of laying down horizontally. And in that game, with that, I tried V-Racer Hoverbike, which is a VR game that's been on Steam for a while. It's kind of like a Wipeout clone with hoverbikes. You can sort of go over boost pads and pick up weapons and fight your sort of enemies, your opponents, to get number one. And that was really cool because you felt like you were really sort of almost touching your nose on the tarmac. So the sense of speed was incredible, and you sort of kind of had to lean and move your hands like this, that sort of make that motion to sort of turn the corners. So that was a really cool experience.
That was non-standard control scheme, right? You were actually on a kind of pseudo motorbike then?
Yeah, exactly. No controls, no wands or anything like that. They just had the Vive headset on and a fan simulating some sort of wind sort of speed. That was a really great experience. The other one called Icarus, which is a similar sort of design in that you sort of straddle it, you lay down, you're lying horizontally. It had no motors, so it was purely based on your balance. So I kind of felt like on that one, you really needed like really great core strength. And if you used it over a period of time, you'd like have abs of steel. You'd have like an eight pack or something ridiculous. But what they had in that demo was their own proprietary game that they had sort of developed to show off the hardware. And it was kind of like a Pilot Wings style sort of game where you had to fly through rings, and then the smaller the ring, the more points you got. And they were running a competition who could get the highest score.
Got me all nostalgic now, Mike. I loved Pilot Wings. That was a great game.
It was a great game. I miss those days. But you had three different models from Icarus. You had like a bike, which I didn't try. You had a home version, which was kind of lighter and sort of a bit stripped down, and then you had the arcade version. And they were really sort of trying to aim for the arcade sort of market with this, but they didn't really have any sort of games to sort of that were compatible with it, other than this one that they'd made themselves to sort of show off to investors. But both, were kind of fun. I didn't get to try the Flappy Bird one. I was really looking forward to trying that one.
That's amazing.
Yeah, which I've seen at other shows. I remember seeing Kent By on it, and it looked hilarious. So it was a shame they didn't show that off, or they didn't have that at the show. But those were cool anyway. It's kind of interesting, but very sort of intense, especially for newcomers. I saw a lot of people queuing up, and I was asking them, you ever tried VR before? And they were like, no. And I was like, oh, this is going to be their first VR experience.
That's never going to be good.
Yeah, and it was very intense. But for me, it was great. I was having a great time. But for them, some people quitting out a little bit early, saying I've had enough. I can't stomach this. So it's a bit of a shame. But
Mike, we've got an opportunity here, right? I figured out, brand wise, super. We should just steal Wipeout's idea. They once had a series of sickness bags with the different versions of Wipeout on it.
Yeah.
We could just go to these shows, just find anyone who hasn't, and just hand them it's not a real recommendation, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So they were the kind of the flying machines that I tried, and they were the only ones at the show. They did have a couple of omnidirectional treadmills. They had the Omni itself, and then they had a custom built one by a French company called Event VR. They were actually showing off like a training simulator for military and police, where they were replicating a terrorist attack at an airport, which is kind of like intense, kind of scary, really. But they were using a custom-made treadmill for that one. But I didn't get to try it, unfortunately. But I did get to try the Omni, which was interesting because you have these like slip-on covers that you put over your shoes, which have like an Omni tracking device on them. and then they had a custom
covers now. They're not a shoe because they used to make like those shoes specifically, like a specific shoe for it. So now it's a cover that you pull over your shoe.
Yeah, like a stretchy fabric cover that you stretch over your shoe, and then you just fasten it with a clip, and it was on there. And then you put this kind of like collar around your waist, which sits on top of the Omni, the top of it, and then you can just sort of like run in any direction. It was the first time I've ever tried. Felt like a hamster. Yeah, totally felt like a hamster. The cool thing with the demo was that they gave you like a gun which you actually carried. So a bit like the demos, you're like kind of like running like this. But they showed off a game which was custom for the Omni, which was kind of like a stealth kind of game. You went in and infiltrated a base, and then things got a bit sort of like supernatural, and your colleague dies, and then you have to sort of fight a load of enemies. But the problem with the Omni was, although I thought it was kind of a cool experience, I really did feel like I was having to lean on the edge of the frame to get the purchase to really give that momentum in my legs. So it was almost like I was at an angle, I wasn't upright running. I was at an angle, really sort of pushing my body weight on the frame and then just moving my legs. So it was a bit strange.
Was it like tight in certain areas?
No, it was comfortable. It was comfortable enough because the collar goes around your waist, not around your crotch. So you
because it used to be the other way around.
It used to be around.
Yeah, it used to cup.
I remember. I think it was Ben from Road to VR who had that picture where he's like completely like strapped in, like
yeah.
That did not look comfortable at all.
No, you get a real case of camel tail there. But yeah, it was interesting to try it, but I didn't think it was a great experience. But there was an alternative at the show, which is Cyber Shoes. Now, full disclosure, Cyber Shoes actually invited me to Gamescom, and they actually paid for my trip, just so everyone's aware of that. I feel like it's important that I disclose that. And I did say to them before the event, like when they did invite me to go, that if their product was bad, that I would say it was bad. I always give honest feedback on products that I'm sort of asked to review in those kind of circumstances. But the difference with Cyber Shoes is that you don't need all this expensive equipment, and they basically managed to capture what's cool about having a treadmill and make it really affordable and available to the masses. So what they've done is they've got these plastic soles which go under your shoes. And you strap them on with almost like snowboarding clips,
Are they different sizes or like a fixed size?
It's a fixed size. I wasn't aware if they're going to do different sizes, but it was kind of like it was kind of like a fairly big size, like almost like a size 10. And then it had a backstop where you put the back of your shoe, and then it fixes it in place with a strap. So it doesn't really necessarily matter, but maybe they will offer different sizes. I'm not quite sure, but this is still like in prototype staging. They're in the final stages of prototypes. But once you're strapped in, you've got these rollers underneath, and you sit on a bar stool essentially, which is like 360. You can rotate, and then you just like roll your feet along the floor. And it was actually way more comfortable than the Omni, and it actually felt better in terms of its the way it kind of made you feel, and the representation in VR as well. Because like I said, on the Omni you felt like you were kind of leaning, but the Cyber Shoes was very comfortable because you're just seated and you're just kind of using that sort of motion with your feet. The shoes actually transmit wirelessly to like a dongle that's connected to your PC, and then that kind of is represented in game. And the one that I tried was really great was Doom VFR using that. It felt really nice to kind of just spin round, run forwards, or kind of like retreat backwards that way. So I'd say that was a really cool experience, and they're going to be launching a Kickstarter campaign later on in the year. They're sort of aiming for the €200 mark. So when you sort of stack it up to the Omni, which is going to be like thousands of euros, and then you've got this kind of experience, just €200.
But again, the Omni is more like directed at like arcades still, I think, than anyone like putting their. I know in the beginning they were saying like it was like for commercial purposes and just retail, just for everyone at home. But I don't see that happening anytime soon, unless they can make it really compact so you can like slide it under the bed or something. Maybe then. But
that was the thing that surprised me the most, was that this €200 product was going toe to toe with this other product that was worth thousands, and in my opinion was actually a better experience. But that was kind of interesting to check out at the show. I'm going to be covering
first interaction with these frictionless surfaces, Mike.
Yes.
And what was your general opinion of that? Like, is it a technology that you're bought into, not bought into? Do you see a future for it or not?
I think it's very interesting. Certainly for games like Doom VFR, I would enjoy using that experience to enhance the experience, because I think for that game, it did enhance the experience. The speed in which you move in the game and you're moving your legs kind of worked very well. However, when I tried Skyrim, it felt like I was walking too slow. So it would just take far too long to traverse the world. So I think it has its place, but yeah, it's interesting for people that also are health conscious, maybe want to sort of maybe burn a few calories while playing their games. You know, like people that have been playing like Beat Saber, for example, and losing weight. You know, you would definitely lose weight by using a product like this or a treadmill, because you're going to be burning calories. So it really kind of depends if that interests you and you're interested in some of the games that are supported, because obviously it's not going to support every game that's out there. So
now I know that you're like a little bit more prone to motion sickness than maybe others that are here, but when you tried those frictionless surfaces, did you also go uphill or downhill, or was it all flat surface?
So in Doom VFR, you go upstairs, and I find that was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fine.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't have any issues with that. Yeah, so that was my experience with that. The other cool thing that I got to try out were haptic vests. So this is something that I've been really interested in for a while.
Territory.
Well, we got a question though about the shoes.
Sure.
Still. We got Cybust asking us, how were the shoes tracked? How were they doing the tracking of the shoes, of the movement, I guess?
So basically, it has like a kind of like a motor inside that picks up the roller movement, and then that's transferred wirelessly. I think it's RF that they use to the dongle, and then that's correlated in game. But what the devs were saying was that it could basically be replicated with any game that uses thumbstick movement. You know, so free locomotion, or they can also track it to the Vive trackpad as well. So you know, if you push forward on the trackpad and you move, or they can basically just implement that within their sort of SDK, so it'll just be supported when the games come out.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they were showing off at the show Doom, Skyrim, and Minecraft. They were the games.
Question: that shoes thing, does that come with the seat, or is it just the shoes product? That's what I was curious about, because there's kind of like a turnstile bucket seat thing that you sit on, and
yeah, and they were really cool. They had 3 different designs of the chair, but they actually buy that from another supplier, and they were also using the IKEA light stand as a cable management system. I don't know if you guys have seen that. There's like an IKEA light that people have been using as a double for a cable management system, which worked really well as well. But what they're going to be doing on the Kickstarter is they're going to be selling the shoes, and then they're going to be selling the shoes with the seat, but they just need to finalize the detail because they don't own that product. And Kickstarter are a bit funny about you selling products you don't own through the Kickstarter campaign, that they might just have to recommend it as a product that they sort of recommend and you buy it separately, or they're going to have a bundle with it together. But
yeah, I pulled up their website so people can see how the seat looks as well.
Yeah, the seats are really cool. The seats are really cool. They've got a few different designs. One looks like a little racing bucket seat, which I thought was really cool.
Interesting point about that seat, actually. So I've talked about the other tactile unit before, but a butt kicker Gamer 2 or one of their other products would strap to that pole, no problem. So you could actually get tactile in there as well as your movement, and that might be a pretty cool thing. It'd be interesting if that team was able to pick this up, this feedback point. Also going to catch this show, but if you guys haven't tried with a butt kicker, give it a go. That's not a piston, is it? It's just kind of a swivel point.
Just swivel point, I believe. Yeah.
It does look weird when you're going backwards, though.
Well, you're sort of like backing up. You're retreating.
Because you need to push off to go back, right? That does look a bit weird.
I think Doom, like what Mike said, right, would feel pretty natural. But if I tried to play Assetto in that and skating around the track with my car, there's going to be some really fun applications. So honestly, the second I get my hands on something like that, and I think that's a really smartly designed consumer product. It's one of those things that I definitely want to try, because I'll tell you, Mike, I am not convinced at all about the frictionless surfaces thing, generally speaking. Yeah. Like where you're standing and your full body weight is on the frictionless piece, because it just feels so bloody abnormal.
Yeah, exactly. I was really surprised about it, actually, of how much I enjoyed it playing Doom. Like I say, the others not so much, but Doom really stuck in my mind as being a really great experience. Cool. But in terms of other stuff I got to check out, like haptic vests, a company called B Haptics, they were there. Tesla suit wasn't there, unfortunately, and I think they're the sort of big name in terms of haptics in VR. But bHaptics are definitely one to keep an eye on because they had a vest, they had these straps that went around your forearms, and then, which was really surprising, they had a facial interface that actually attached to the headset itself. So if you can imagine like the VR cover replacement interfaces that you just pop in and out on the Rift and the Vive, they actually had the same thing, but with little rumble transducers on your forehead. So the cool thing was that in the demo that they made, it was like a rip-off of Rec Room Paintball, essentially. But where if you shot your opponent in the head, they actually felt it in their head rather than anywhere else. And whilst you're shooting your guns, you got the tactile feedback on the forearm of like the recoil. So depending on which gun you used, and then if you got shot in the chest or anywhere like that, you kind of felt the hit and then a small ripple effect. And it was really well done. Like I was very impressed with that.
That sounds good.
It was very cool, very cool. And I said to the guy afterwards, I was like, "Can I play something else? Because like this is just a demo. Have you implemented it in any other games?" And I was like, "Do you know what game you should implement this in? Beat Saber. That would be a really cool game for this." He was like, "Okay, we've actually implemented it in Beat Saber, but we're not showing anyone else. But we'll show you if you're interested." And I got to play Beat Saber using it, and it was very cool indeed. So that was a very interesting product. They're looking to launch that later on in the year.
Are you convinced by haptics yet, Mike?
Oh, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. And I think, we're going to be touching on Arizona Sunshine later on, but I think the haptics with that experience would have made it like even better. And I really sort of going to sing that.
What was the
price
sort of experience? Was there a price already?
No price point at the moment because they haven't launched it yet officially, I don't think. But yeah, that will be coming soon. The other thing was there was another company there called ThermoReal, and basically they teamed up with bHaptics. And what they'd done is they had used the haptic feedback that they had already implemented and then added hot and cold experiences within that as well. So they had the same forearm thing and vest and interface as the bHaptics team, but they'd implemented hot and cold in there as well. And this demo like blew my mind. Like I went to their stall. It was a really tiny little stall. And I was like, "What is this?" And they showed me. And basically, you could put the headset on. Again, it was a Vive, and you could touch a fireball, and literally you felt it on your arm and on your head, and it was just like blew my mind. Like I was just like, "This is cool." ThermoReal was the company, but they're teaming up with bHaptics to probably bring a product together in the future. But the other thing was they had an ice cube. When you touch the ice cube, they instantly went hot. Like the response time on these little pads that were on your head was so quick. But then the best thing that they showed me, and this is incredible, they had like a water shower, and if you stood underneath it, the cold element was like going off and on really quickly, and then incorporated the haptics at the same time, like a vibration, and it actually felt like water droplets were falling on your head. Like it was so good, it was so convincing, and I was just like, mate, like,
damn it, Mike.
We are here.
I found online, I put the website up. I found a company that's called Techway though, and they have an application that is called ThermoReal.
Yes, Techway.
Techway.
Yes,
Techway is them.
Yes,
Okay.
Techway was the company. I've got the card right in front of me. So they're working with bHaptics to bring that sort of technology into like a haptic vest, and they were showing me that they're sort of the technology they use. They've made it so that it can be very flexible. So they could actually hypothetically make a whole vest full of that technology. So say if you got hit by like a fireball, not only would you feel the hit from the fireball, but you would feel the heat of the fireball as well.
Amazing, right? This is the X1 suit from Ready Player One. We only needed to be like elastic and like skin tight, so like a second skin, and then we're there,
But I asked the guy, I was like, "So how hot can this thing go?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, it can go up to like 130 degrees or something crazy." Okay. I was like, "Whoa!" It was like. He was like, obviously, like we limit it, like
no. Make sure it's not able to go there, because if that limiter breaks or something, people are gonna be fried in there.
That's 130 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, Fahrenheit. Yeah, sorry.
I was already thinking like, what the heck, like.
Guys, customer service is saying we melted a couple of kids. No, but Mike, I was curious. Most people's arms are quite kind of conical shaped.
Yeah.
did you think that over time that was going to like slip down your arm?
No, because it was shaped in a conical shape and then had Velcro to adjust it, so you could just basically
Right.
pull it
Kind of
and
like a
tighten
heart rate monitor, it was taut enough that it wouldn't slip.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
It
again,
was
no
very,
price, I
very
guess.
impressive.
The thing with this, like, I mean, don't you see a problem here for developers that, like, the thing is, if you have tactile transducers, they work with everything because they go off of base response. They're not programmed into the game. You don't have to develop anything. They just work across the board, and that's why I love them. But something like this, the only things that I've heard of in terms of solutions are either screen scraping, looking for a hot scene, so a bright, amber light. But then, an ambulance goes by and all of a sudden you're feeling heat. It's like, well, that's weird. Like, what was their solution to the developer interface?
So they only had their custom-made game or experience to show off. So I don't know how that would be implemented. I guess it would have to be implemented at dev level.
Because if it's good enough and the price is right, then it will become standard. The same thing happened with virtual reality. If the quality is good enough and the price is something that people are willing to pay, then it will get standardized. So I would not. I mean, they're probably in an R&D phase right now, prototyping, and they're not really. That's also why they're not announcing any price, because it's probably out of the through the roof. But if they made the technology good enough, and then start focusing on like getting it to customers, then they're onto something.
They just need one big title, to be honest.
It needs to be really.
Yeah, they just need one big title to piggyback with, and then people are buying it for that reason. And then loads of people have it.
With Oculus, or partnership with Vive or whatever, or something like that. And
the guys from the bHaptics team were saying that they implemented, it was a demo, but they implemented the SDK into Beat Saber in one day, and they did it themselves.
Because the same thing basically happened with the STEM system, right? If everybody remembers that, like the magnetic kind of controllers, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's never gonna get implemented," and it actually also didn't. But then, virtual reality came, and we now have touch controllers and motion controllers, and we can move our hands in virtual reality. So if it's done well enough and it's done good enough, then eventually it'll become a standard thing.
Mike, did you ask? There's a question I'm going to ask you. Did you ask them
if there was like a crotch version?
Did they ever do another
I knew you was going to answer that question. No, they didn't mention that, but they did tease about the fact of like having a whole suit rather than just a vest.
Ooh, it's cold in here.
So it's possible. It's possible. You can dip your balls in ice.
Ladies have some idea, but you don't have any idea, gentlemen. Any gentleman who's walked into the ocean knows there is a sensitivity area.
Yeah.
All right.
And you can experience that in your home now. Yeah. So let's quickly talk about Arizona Sunshine, because we are running a little bit late, but it's an important one to talk about. Out of all the experiences I tried at Gamescom, this was the one that stood head and shoulders above the rest. And I was really surprised about it because, I'd played Arizona Sunshine before. I'd played the DLC, the Dead Man DLC, which I wasn't really that fond of. I mentioned it on the show that I didn't really like it that much. Thought it was kind of a bit of a throwaway experience. But I was really intrigued by this kind of room scale or like warehouse scale experience. And what they did was they had a square room, which was kind of walled off, and they had up to 4 players could go in there. And they were each issued with a Vive Pro and a wireless Vive adapter, the new one, which was also really comfortable, by the way, super comfortable, and had a little battery pack that you just clipped to your belt. Mm-hmm. And then you had 2 guns each with Vive trackers on the top, and they were using the new Vive 2.0 base stations to track everyone within this space, and a single PC running the whole thing for everyone, which was kind of crazy. So just like the Void, we've mentioned it before, the Star Wars experience with the Void, you can see your teammates in real time in VR, so you never bump into each other, and that was one of the things that never happened whilst I was playing. Even though it was in a relatively small space, I never bumped into the wall, I never bumped into another person, because if you went near to the walls, the chaperone system would show, so you avoided that. And basically it was actually the start of the Dead Man DLC, or sort of parts of that DLC that they used in this experience. So at first it was just kind of like a wave shooter. We're all shooting these zombies. And then there was a lever you had to pull, and then you went down in a lift together. But of course, you all have to physically walk and move around into the lift to go into it. And it's really difficult to explain how freaking awesome that is.
That's awesome.
Like when you're moving, like even if it's just like 30 meters to go into a small square so you're in a lift, it just felt so good. And
for those of you in the immersion, right? Like straight away, you're just like, your brain goes, "Oh, this is not real."
completely convinced. And this is where it
That's
got really
crazy,
interesting
yeah.
because in the Dead Man DLC, there's a part, and they replicate it in this experience, where the lift gets stuck halfway down the lift shaft, and you have to walk out on a girder to an adjacent lift.
Oh my
And
god.
and there's a real gap between the lift and the girder, and holy crap, like my brain was like convinced that I was like, because I hate heights, and I was like, oh my god, like I never felt this for a long time in VR, where I actually felt like that feeling of sensation of being high, because I actually had to walk out and stand on it. And so I hopped over, and then I was on this girder, and I was actually balancing, and there was another girder in your way where you had to duck down. Every single one of us did it. Like every single one of us did it. And then there were really clever designs where, you know, 2 players would hold off zombies while another one had to either go on a moving platform to get to a switch. But again, it was so cleverly done, the way they had like designed the levels to utilize the space so well, and using the guns with the trackers just worked flawlessly. Using the Vive wireless system was flawless. The whole experience lasted about 10 to 15 minutes, and I would say it felt more substantial than the Void, although it didn't have the attention to detail that the Void has, because in the Void it has like tactile buttons, wind, heat, rumble. Had they had that in this experience, oh my god, it would have been the best experience I think I'd ever tried in VR. And one of the things that added to the immersion of the experience was, you know, the Vive Pro is a fairly comfortable headset anyway, but because you didn't have this huge backpack on like you had on in the Void, you felt very free and very light to maneuver around and really get involved in the environment. So not only was I really super impressed with the experience that they had put together as just like a pop-up, because all you need is like a cube basically in the center of a mall, and they could pop this up anywhere. But it was the Vive wireless module and how that performed as well, because there was no latency issues. It was light, it was comfortable, and I completely even forgot that we were wireless. You know, like it felt like a tethered experience, but you weren't, essentially. It was that good. So I was amazed by that as well. So overall, that experience just completely blew me away, and I was just so impressed with it all. So, you know, impressed with that, and the fact that this wireless adapter just works
We got a
flawlessly
question
as they describe
asking you, what made this girder or height experience so different to the similar one in the DLC? From Paradise Decay?
So in the DLC, you know, because you're either you're either teleporting or you're using full locomotion with a stick. You have that disconnect of you and the real world. Whereas if you're actually physically walking, it's way more convincing to your brain, and it is very difficult to understand, even as a person that is so
If you're not
experienced in
using the
VR.
thumbstick, yeah, then it's I
Yeah,
think that's a big difference.
the connection you have with the world that you're in feels so much more real in that sense. And that's what kind of made me laugh, you know, when I really hesitated to take that step, or I felt like I was actually having to leap to reach a platform. Then I knew in my mind that I was like, this is something else. This is like on another level. So it was a very cool experience indeed. So hats off to them, HTC, for putting it all together. But I think they're looking at, you know, using this concept as a pop-up and maybe doing what the Void does, and maybe in a shopping mall they'll do like a pop-up and people can experience it. But the funny thing was, like, a lady, an older lady, joined us at the beginning, and I was like, you know, cool, she's going to be involved. And apparently, like, a couple of minutes in, she was like, nope, and just walked out. I think it was her first experience, and I said to the devs afterwards, like, why did she leave? Did she say why she left? And they were like, she didn't say a word and she just walked out. So unfortunately, we didn't know whether it was like she was terrified or just completely overwhelmed by the experience. But then one of the Arizona Sunshine dev jumped in. He was a really cool guy and sort of led us through the rest of the game, and we sort of completed it. But like I say, it was like 10 to 15 minutes long.
That sounds really. It just sounds really convincing. It reminds me of, I've only probably ever had 1 or 2 of those types of experiences. It was Unseen Diplomacy, which is a game where, again, it was my first time not being a relatively confined space. Again with the Vive, the original Vive, and it was at one of these UK games conventions, and I felt safe because the environment was huge. It was something like 20 feet by 20 feet. It was large, maybe 30 by 30, and it was just all kind of green screen. So they had a film crew and stuff. They were watching it, but I just totally, when you're ducking and you're doing those physical movements with your body, I found the same thing, that within a minute or two, you're just almost in sync with your virtual form, and you're like, this is me. I'm now in the holodeck, and whatever I see is real. And it's just like this weird thing, because they had the same deal where you had these like little gratings, and you're like, big drop over there, and then you had to kind of find your way in, and you find your legs like do the tremble, the small tremors or whatever. I mean, I want that. I definitely want that at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's great even if they can bring it to malls, as you said. One PC driving 4 machines. Obviously, Steam brought out that traceability before, so it's great to hear this, Mike. I mean,
crazy.
To be honest,
like,
I think
5 years ago,
this
this was like impossible. Huh? Like there was nothing like this, and now this is coming like popping up. Like you can find this in a store right now. That's insane.
Yeah, very cool.
Halloween. People are going to use this at Halloween. They're going to fucking terrify people with that somehow.
So just while we talk about the Vive wireless module, if you're interested in it, and like I've had some experience with the TP-Cast, I was amazed how flawless it was. It'll be interesting to see how easy it is to set up, because the TP-Cast was complicated, but apparently it's just a PCIe slot like module that you slot into your PC, and then you've got some software to set up, and then you're up and running. It's going to be $300, and it launches on the 24th of September. So it'll be really interesting to see how the setup is. But from my experience so far, very excited about this wireless module, and I'm very tempted to pick one up for the Pro.
Do we know if the PCIe slot, is it a 2 or a 16 lane?
We don't know, unfortunately.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think I know, but I forgot.
I assume it would be
that
a
up
2.
though, because I've been talking to some people, and I think I thought it was the smaller one.
Yeah, because that can, and again,
I'm not
so that
100% sure though. I need to look it up first.
So nobody makes the same mistake I did. If you have a 16 lane, a 2 will go in that.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, well,
but I didn't know that for years. And if anyone else doesn't know that, they need to know that. Okay, anyway.
Good information. So that is the end of the show this week. We've ran on a little bit late, but we had just so much to cover this week. It was unreal. And I just wanted to sort of mention at the end of the show, we're thinking of moving the audio hosting from SoundCloud to Anchor. And for one good reason, and that is so you as our sort of listeners and viewers can actually record questions in the form of like a voicemail and leave it for us attached to our show. So like in the future, we could have questions from you guys, but they're actually audio questions, so other people can hear your voice and hear your question. So if you're kind of interested in that and you think it's a good move, then I'd love to know your thoughts and feedback on that, because at the end of the day, this show is for you guys and girls. So if you think that would enhance the show, then please let us know. But if you've got any questions for us, please chuck them in the chat now, and I'll just remind you of the show times and everything else.
I've got a great one here just before you do the reel.
Sure.
From Sylvan on Twitch. My goodness, Nathy is really calm and quiet today.
He is. Although I can't imagine he's calm and quiet right now in real life, because he's going to be screaming his little lungs out, screaming for KSI or Logan Paul. I don't know who he's backing, but he's going to be screaming for one of them.
I pulled a picture of Tastic Gamer VR, who made the Here's Rowdy.
Mike and I actually met him. We met him. At Rest. We met him. So.
Rest.
Good to see another member of the budding VR community. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Always great to meet those people.
Art.
It's a shame, actually, whilst I was at Gamescom, I didn't get to meet Voodoo DE or Sebastian from Mixed Reality or Jürgen, who were all there as well. We just missed each other. There's so many people there. It's unreal. Yeah. But it's a shame. I would have really liked to meet those guys, but I'm sure at OC5 we're probably all going to get together at some point.
Last question for you, Mike. Are you going back to Gamescom next year, do you think?
I will try my best for sure.
Good.
Yeah, it was worth it.
We got a couple more questions in the chat as well. Like we got the Mad Hatter asking Mike, what's it like when you come out of an experience like? Is your brain just like, what the hell just happened?
I was just smiling. I was just smiling so much, and I just said to the dev, like, because he was playing with us, I was like, dude, like, that was one of the best experiences I've ever had in VR. Like, that's how good it was. And I was just beaming, and, I was just blown away by the tech from HTC, with the trackers and the 2.0 base stations, and then this PC that was running all 4 units and the wireless module. And together it just all worked flawlessly. And that was just so great for me. So yeah, I was having a great time. I was laughing so much, and I was just so happy, that we've come so far already, like you said. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so it's just a reminder that it's a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on this YouTube channel, Twitch, and on Facebook. You can tune into the show live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, 12 midday in Central US. If you missed this live stream, don't worry, we re-upload it every Sunday. Sorry, I was late last weekend. I was editing the show on the train, and then I didn't get to upload it until the following day. So apologies for that, but it is normally uploaded every Sunday. You can check out the audio version on Google Play Music, iTunes, and SoundCloud. Maybe Anchor in the future if you guys think it's a good idea. And yeah, so we hope you've enjoyed this a bit longer show. Nathan will be back on track next week, and we'll all be together as a foursome. And hopefully, in between this time, we can check out Firewall Zero Hour together as a team. I'd really like that. So if we can get to do that, we can hopefully share our experience on that on next week's episode.
Mike,
all right.
Please remember to bring the USB key.
I'll remember to bring the USB stick. So I hope you guys and girls have enjoyed this one. I hope you all have a great week in the metaverse. And until next week, have a great one, and we'll see you then. So until then, bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.